After being taken out of the oven for a moment, tasted, and subsequently wanting to put it back in the oven, for fear of food poisoning, comes No Man's Sky, or rather No Man's Sky 1.3 The Atlas Rises. Hello, Dragon God 00 here for a new thoughts on type video. The new update for No Man's Sky dropped about 4 days ago, as of the time of this recording at least. Not really worried about dating anything, seeing as how that'll be the least of the worries when this video comes to its end. First off, since not many people cared or followed this update has been being teased for some time. Last time I checked, earlier this summer in June. But no real information was really out about it until the day it dropped. No, seriously. The day it dropped, the only trailer for the update launched. Which I guess is a way how Hello Games answers trying to keep expectations low, but at the same time it honestly hurts the whole product for me. Seeing as how I actually knew a couple people that weren't bandwagoning assholes or that have some semblance of self-control and vented their frustrations appropriately, more on this later, and were interested in this new update. Problem was, I didn't know what the hell to tell them about it. Most of the information was either so speculative, whereas this gone before, or was so convoluted that unless you're studying an advanced level of computer engineering or other advanced engineering, it didn't make much sense. Oh yeah. I like that expectations were controlled a bit more, I guess, but damn, it's kinda hard to have expectations if you don't know what the flying flatulence is going on with it. It's like watching Gundam G Recco. After viewing 3 episodes, the only factors that were easily understandable was that subtitles were bad. At least for that anime, they definitely were for English. For future reference, Hello Games, maybe a trail that is easier to follow should be on the drawing board for plans. KK. Alright, let's talk about the update now. So, before I get into what I feel like is the main chunk of this update, I want to talk about the new quote-unquote features added in the game. The game looks a lot better, graphically I mean. Honestly, this isn't something I expected either. I know it's probably not difficult, seeing as how they change a few models and textures and the procedural generation does the rest, but still, things looking better is a good thing. Unfortunately, they don't run better, like, at all. Could be my PS4, could be the game here, but I'm going to probably assume it's the game since most of my other games don't run like this. But you will consistently drop frames, and your menu will all but freeze your game when you go to access it sometimes. That being said, they did also add a much needed feature of unlocking your frame rate, which can suck gonads or evolve the experience. It all depends on where you are in the game. Space is like drinking from the fountain of youth. On planets, it's like choking on flint water. At least in my experience. A little disclaimer before I move on to this next part here. I played on survival difficulty, and I already have issues with this difficulty. I like it over the other ones, but I feel like it's got a lot of artificial difficulty spikes. Like I said, I kind of feel like it's how the game was intended to be played, but before any No Man's Boys or Dark Souls type of elitist people come out and say, hey, I'm gonna berate you for complaining about a game's difficulty, yeah, you've been warned. So, I restarted and played survival mode because I have brain damage from repeated Dark Souls playthroughs, and I partially figured there would be some rebalance from already existingly bad issues. I was painfully wrong. I streamed the update day 1. You can check on my channel, I believe the stream is still up unless there was a problem with it. And within 24 minutes, got stuck in a perpetual infinite death loop. Which I exclaimed, well, fuck, that was fast. Now, you could argue about how I shouldn't have saved while I was low on life support or my environmental defense was low or something, but I would rebuttal. Why the hell doesn't it make sure there's enough cover for me to not need to worry about it anyway? If I gotta walk 15 minutes to my ship and only have about 5 minutes of life support, which drains whenever I move, 2 minutes of cold protection, which lasts as long as Trump's patience, which can only be regained by seeking shelter or finding materials to refuel it, what do I do if the algorithm says, F you and decides to play keep away with all the cave areas and zinc. It's not that bad here since it was only about half an hour, but I can't imagine a player that got stuck in this after about a few hours of building up your upgrades and character. Oh, wait. Move past this, and you see the new UI changes, which I love. Admittedly, most of the UI options are more innovative than they are new, like the separate upgrades and cargo inventories for ships and your suit. But it's really helpful, and it allows the player to apply their own strategy to laying things out. Albeit the strategy is kinda basic, it's still there. Being what you would call a trader is actually highly profitable now. If you hang around certain star systems and clusters, you can actually have an effect on the ecosystem by like raiding freighters, selling high amounts of one type of element or something like that, or resource, and actually impact the flow of what's happening. Yes, there's an actual economy system in the game now. Granted, when you actually try to shoot these things, sometimes they don't work as intended, or I'm assuming they don't work as intended. I don't know if it's a bug or something, but I haven't been able to raid freighters that aren't the main one you land on. Shots just jiggle off the ships and make it seem like Flubber's been dry humping my guns or something. Also, combat, more importantly, space combat. How the flying F is it that ship combat gets more bipolar with every update? I've gotten in many good space battles. That's what I mean by bipolar. I've gotten in some very good space battles. But the lock-on just decides to play the trust test at random intervals and beams my ally far from the left side of my screen while the hostile shoots me in point-blank range and flies past me giving the bird. I've helped freighters out, where the game tells me to go land on the lead freighter, right? To claim my prize, only to be looked at like a half-wit and then asked to get off the ship or buy it. Another thing, why is it still a feature that your ship uses 100% launch fuel when taking off? I can't be the only one annoyed by this feature. Why isn't 50% there? Or, I don't know, why isn't that you can't charge it with more than just plutonium? Many of the planets you go to have little to no relatively accessible plutonium to charge your launch thrusters, but being fair, I will be fair here, the economy system is fixed, like I said earlier, that's a new one, and you can actually buy just a butt ton of plutonium and save up most of the time if you need fuel. I would advise having 2 slots dedicated to just plutonium fuel, and you should be fine. But the moral of the story is when things work, they work good. Really good. And if they don't, it's a time sink and a fucking annoying one at that. But aside from those changes, which were very general, there's a couple quality of life changes and base building and NPC interactions have been changed, as well as adding some side quests which can range from fetch quests, boring fetch quests, even more boring fetch quests, or actually quests that seem to, branch off into other things. I've only experienced one of those that were more than just go here, do one thing, and leave, but I would advise them prioritizing those over the normal fetch quest. Of course, in any type of game that's like questing and things like that, there's gonna be fetch quests, but nobody likes fetch quests. Nobody. But all in all, things feel more fleshed out and less thrown out like the launch. To the important stuff now. The name of this update blatantly just confuses me. Not only because Big Brother Atlas doesn't fly or move from its fixed position in orbit like it's afraid of the ship controls in its game and might dart off into the abyss never to be seen again, but from what I've been playing in the story so far, yes, the story, hold your questions, the Atlas isn't even the highlight of the story. You and Artemis are. Now don't click off the video for spoilers because I'm really early in the story, and I only know the basics of where the stuff they're talking about is going on to, like what the travelers are and whatever like that, so to speak at least. But that doesn't matter. What matters is it's actually interesting right now. Not sure if it's just Stockholm Syndrome setting in or I'm bored out of my mind, but they've actually made a rather good searching for another across time and space story. Not only that, but with the added lore and connections in the game, a lot of the things like from monoliths and crashed ships actually make this seem like a more grand adventure with things unraveling around you versus just random sporadic events around the universe. and making you inevitably understand what you as a traveler, what I guess a traveler is. I'm not speaking in the tech context of what does a traveler do. Obviously, a traveler uncovers things, but the idea that you are the race known as the traveler in the game. It's look it up. It's weird. I'm gonna assume that it doesn't go full Destiny and have an incoherent plot line later, or Mass Effect 3 and the branching paths they're talking about just lead to which color looks good splooging on the universe. But as of right now, it's good. It's pretty a-okay. Before my final thoughts, or before I say my final thoughts on this, I'd like to say some things to anyone still listening to my very dry humor in comparisons to other games. Apologies about the very monotoneness. My voice kind of hurts, and also I'm kind of needing to be quiet for some people currently in the house. So let me not beat around the bush here. I think if you play games like Destiny and you either don't criticize it or have no problems with the way it's being marketed and sold, you shouldn't have much to say about No Man's Sky. This isn't to say you should not complain about a product that misleads or blatantly lies about features, however. But let me explain. Destiny 1 launched touting a lot of things that were supposed to be in the game, like gambling, a coherent story, and a lot more content than what we were actually given and were able to play in the game at launch. Now, I followed the game pretty much as long as people like Datto and more console, for about 2.5 if not 3 years before the game even came out. Followed its development, so I knew a lot of this stuff was supposed to be in the game. It wasn't. The outrage for that was basically nil until a few months later, and even then, to this day, people vehemently defend the indefensible with Destiny. In essence, No Man's Sky and Hello Games did the exact same thing Bungie did with Destiny, but they were viewed differently because of a few things. I don't want to lengthen this video too much more, and I might make a separate video talking about this subject because there's not that much thought on this and conversation around YouTube and any other place I see. But to summarize, Destiny had a very good core. Basically, shooting stuff in games is fun, and they're very good at doing that. They've made Halo games, they've made that very fun at shooting stuff. It was very hard to mess that up here. No Man's Sky didn't have a very good core at launch, or at least it was significantly slower to the point that it was unnoticeable. The other thing, one company has already made a name for itself and has a defense force ready for them, while the other company went from a mobile game to this. This isn't necessarily to defend Hello Games and Sony either. They did something wrong and got chastised for it. But they aren't the only ones and aren't the worst ones that have done it. I have no expectations for them. Yet, I did for Bungie. And to me, that's far worse. But again, I like Destiny. I like No Man's Sky, or at least like what they can become, and I feel like they have a lot of promise and can evolve into some very great games over time. Granted, I'd like not to pay so much Destiny for that, but I treat their actions appropriately and equally, and don't bandwagon 'cause it's fun. Anyways, No Man's Sky was always a bread sandwich promised to be a full sandwich to me. It was bland, not appealing, and definitely needed some TLC, or some damn add-ons when it came out. So the server comes back after a dumb amount of time and not much dialogue, and the sandwich progressively got better, to be an okayly made sandwich. Now, was it what was intended? Not exactly, but at the same time, they have and will be adding more stuff to this sandwich for free. And unlike the other restaurant right next door, as well, they actually have been listening to some of the feedback I've given them about the sandwich. Maybe what to add, maybe some lettuce, maybe some condiments. No Man's Sky 1.3, the Atlas Rises, it's good. But it needs a patch and some work to it. And obviously future updates, because it's still not exactly where I would say $60 level. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of content. Technically, there's a lot of content. But what you're arguing now with a game like this is varied content. The game's on sale right now for Steam. I don't know if it's on sale for PS4 and console. Well, it is only available for PS4 right now. But if you can get it for 30 or so bucks, I'd pick it up now. It's pretty reasonable. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press that little ding-a-ling bell so you can get notified whenever I upload a video, which will probably be every once a week or so because I have no schedule and I am really bad at making things that are relevant the time they're out, which is the exception for this video because I was going to actively try to hit that deadline I made for myself and never said to anybody. Hopefully by next year we can have the game that's better than what was promised originally. And at the rate they're going, they might actually meet that deadline. That is, if you get a better PR person. You absolute top